Moments ago, NASA released a short, cryptic statement confirming what many believed to be impossible. The James Webb Space Telescope has decoded a signal from object 3I Atlas. At first, it seemed like another routine bulletin, a discovery update, a new exoplanet, another distant nebula. But then the message vanished. Within minutes, the official post disappeared from NASA's feed. The live stream from the Deep Space Network cut to static, and the agency's press room went silent. Something had happened. Something no one was prepared for. Sources inside the Goddard Space Flight Center reported an unprecedented anomaly in the data stream from Webb. Telemetry was interrupted, guidance systems temporarily lost synchronization, and a surge of unknown interference was recorded across multiple frequencies. One engineer described the data pattern as too structured to be random. At 02:14 UTC, the telescope's instruments received a burst, not of light, but of information. A repeating pulse, embedded deep within the infrared spectrum, lasting precisely 333 seconds. The object in question? The interstellar traveler, 3I Atlas, first detected in 2019, once thought to be a harmless fragment of ice and dust passing through our solar system. But now, it has answered back. Reports began to surface from multiple observatories, the European Space Agency, the Atacama Array in Chile, and even the Indian Deep Space Network, all confirmed identical readings. Yet, official statements quickly turned evasive. Instrumental artifacts, they claimed. Data compression errors. But off the record, several astronomers admitted the signal contained patterns, numeric sequences, mirrored structures, even rhythm. And then came the first leak. An anonymous file, uploaded to an encrypted forum used by astrophysicists, allegedly contained a snippet of the decoded transmission. The file name was simple: jwst3isignal_raw.bin. Those who downloaded it said it contained an audio spectrum unlike anything ever recorded, a sound halfway between static and whisper, as if something was trying to speak through noise. NASA has refused to comment. The Department of Defense has reportedly restricted further analysis under international observation protocols. Yet multiple insiders claim the signal wasn't just received, it was interpreted. You can almost feel the fear behind their silence. One senior researcher, who requested anonymity, said, "We ran the data through a pattern recognition model, and it responded. It's as if the signal was aware it was being analyzed." At that point, the internal alarm system of the Webb's ground control was triggered. The data stream froze. Backup servers went offline. And then, a final entry appeared in the system log before the blackout. Message complete. Since then, every attempt to replicate the anomaly has failed. It's as if the signal appeared, delivered its payload, and then vanished. But here's where the story becomes even stranger. Within hours of the event, satellite operators detected subtle fluctuations in the magnetosphere, small but consistent. The same timestamp, 02:14 UTC. Coincidence? Or was the Earth itself responding? No one knows. No one dares to say. Meanwhile, across the internet, the speculation spreads like wildfire. Amateur astronomers claim to have recorded a faint echo, a residual signature that repeats every 27 hours. Conspiracy theorists whisper about Project Echo Chamber, a rumored deep space communication experiment buried in black budgets. And yet, amid all the noise, one fact remains. The James Webb Telescope detected something intelligent. Every scientist involved in the project has been ordered to remain silent. Some deleted their accounts entirely. Others disappeared from social media overnight. The only trace left, fragments of deleted posts, screenshots, and half-finished emails ending mid-sentence. "It's not just data," one of them wrote. "It's a reply." So what did the signal say? What could possibly cause the world's most advanced telescope to shut down in fear? We don't have the answer yet, but the few who saw the decoded transmission agree on one terrifying truth. Whatever sent it knows we're listening. And what happened next overturned everything we thought we knew about reality. For 48 hours, NASA maintained absolute silence. No press briefings, no updates, no comments. But behind closed doors, the agency was in full emergency mode. Leaked internal memos later revealed that on October 4, 2025, at exactly 02:14:08 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope recorded an anomaly that didn't fit any known astrophysical profile. The raw data came through Channel 7 of the Deep Space Network, the same channel once reserved for Voyager transmissions from the edge of the heliosphere. At first, operators thought it was a simple data echo, a reflection from the telescope's heat shield, or cosmic interference from solar radiation. But when engineers ran a Fourier analysis of the incoming signal, something terrifyingly clear appeared, a pattern of prime numbers repeating in perfect symmetry, followed by a sharp decline into silence, and then a second burst, nearly identical, but reversed. That reversal was what caught everyone's attention. It wasn't noise, it was intent. According to an insider report published briefly on an obscure science blog before being removed, the anomaly wasn't isolated to Webb. The ALMA Observatory in Chile and the Very Large Array in New Mexico also picked up fragments of the same pulse sequence. Cross-referenced, the source pointed unmistakably to a single coordinate, the orbital trajectory of 3I Atlas, an interstellar visitor first charted in 2019 and lost from tracking 2 years later. Only now, it seemed, it had returned. NASA's internal team designated the event Spectra X. The name never appeared in official documents, but the leaked report, marked Level 6 containment, described something extraordinary. Signal exhibits harmonic phase modulation, indicative of a deliberate construct. Transmission bandwidth suggests adaptive encoding, not random, not natural. In plain English, that meant the signal was changing as it was being analyzed. Even more disturbing, the data logs from the Webb telescope showed discrepancies in time signatures. The transmission appeared to arrive before it was detected. In other words, the system registered the response milliseconds before the initiating scan was performed. A temporal feedback loop, or as one physicist put it, a message sent backward. The implications were staggering. When NASA forwarded the data to the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, for analysis, the file was classified within hours. A new encryption protocol was applied to all Webb transmissions. Every external research connection, universities, labs, observatories, was abruptly severed. The excuse? Routine maintenance. But there was nothing routine about what happened next. 3 separate scientists, one in California, one in Tokyo, and another in Prague, received identical packets of raw spectral data from anonymous senders. Inside each was a sequence of numbers, 3141592, the digits of pi, but arranged in repeating clusters, forming what appeared to be coordinates in deep space. When mapped, the points converged on a region near the Oort cloud, far beyond any known probe, and yet a faint echo was detected there too. The official explanation, a reflection from interplanetary dust, didn't hold. The pattern repeated every 333 seconds, exactly matching the original Webb anomaly. The same number again. Coincidence or message? Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, technicians were ordered to disconnect one of the data servers, server node JW9A. According to leaked maintenance logs, the hard drive was physically removed, sealed, and flown under military escort to an undisclosed location. Hours later, every online copy of that log was deleted. Still, traces of the data persisted, and the more independent analysts studied it, the clearer one thing became. The so-called Spectra X signal contained a structure identical to early human radio communication, a carrier wave, modulation patterns, and most chillingly, a checksum, a mathematical confirmation that the message had been received and verified. Who or what could design a system that anticipated our methods of signal verification? Who could send data that adjusts to our decoding algorithms in real time? You can almost hear the whisper beneath the static. We know your language now. As the data blackout spread, another mystery emerged. The European Space Operations Center reported brief magnetic disruptions across deep space relay nodes, each lasting only fractions of a second, but synchronized precisely with the Webb timestamps. It was as if the entire solar communication grid had flinched. That night, an encrypted message was sent from NASA's headquarters to all affiliated observatories worldwide. It contained only 6 words: cease analysis. This is not human. By dawn, the servers had gone dark. The public feed of the James Webb Telescope displayed only a single static image, a blurred field of light with a strange, symmetrical shadow in the center. Within 12 minutes, it was gone, but not before someone captured it. Not before the world began to ask the one question NASA refused to answer. If 3I Atlas isn't just a rock, then what exactly is moving toward us? Scientists realized this was no instrument glitch. Something real had happened. Something alive. The silence couldn't last. Within days of the data blackout, whispers began to leak from within NASA, the European Space Agency, and even private aerospace firms. Something extraordinary had happened, and now the world's brightest minds were starting to talk. The first to break ranks wasn't a scientist, but Elon Musk. In a post that appeared briefly on his X account before vanishing minutes later, Musk wrote, "Webb isn't broken, it's listening, and whoever it's listening to knows we're here." The post was deleted, but screenshots spread like wildfire. Reporters demanded clarification, and SpaceX issued a statement claiming the account had been compromised. Yet, in a podcast recorded the same day, Musk sounded uneasy, genuinely shaken. "We've picked up signals before, cosmic background noise, pulsars, quasars, but this was different. It responded. I've seen the pattern myself. It's like talking to something that's pretending not to understand you." And Musk wasn't alone. Dr. Michio Kaku, theoretical physicist and renowned futurist, spoke on live television 2 nights later. His tone, usually calm and measured, trembled ever so slightly. "If the data is authentic, and I believe it is, we may be dealing with a form of communication that transcends our physics. This could be the first verified instance of non-human intelligence initiating contact." He paused, then added, "Or worse," responding to a message we already sent without realizing it. Those words sent shockwaves across the global scientific community. What did he mean, a message we already sent? That's when another document surfaced, a preliminary analysis, allegedly compiled by a small team at Caltech, working with DARPA's Remote Data Division. The report referenced an experiment conducted in 2023, an unsanctioned attempt to bounce quantum-entangled signals off a fast-moving interstellar object. The object's designation? 3I Atlas. If the document was genuine, then humanity might have made first contact 2 years earlier and forgotten about it. Dr. Lena Verhoeven, an astrophysicist at the European Space Observatory, later confirmed in an interview that her team received an unexplained instruction from NASA just after the anomaly. They told us to stop decoding, to delete all spectral models immediately. We refused. Within hours, our access credentials were revoked. Her final line still echoes online. We saw something in the data, a pattern that matched human DNA sequences, not perfectly, but close enough to be impossible. Meanwhile, an unnamed engineer at the Deep Space Network leaked an internal audio log, a short segment of the original Webb transmission. When converted into sound, the frequency range produced a rhythmic, almost breathing pulse. At the 37-second mark, a faint distortion emerged, a fragment that many listeners described as a voice. Some claimed it said, "Observe." Others swore it whispered, "Return." NASA neither confirmed nor denied the leak, but one official was overheard saying, "That audio was never supposed to exist." By now, public panic was beginning to stir. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Alien intelligence, a government psyop, a rogue AI signal trapped in space. But for the scientists who had seen the raw data, it was no longer theory. It was real. Dr. Katarina Solberg, a Norwegian data analyst who worked briefly on the Webb project, revealed in a hidden camera interview that every decoding attempt triggered unpredictable changes in the signal itself. Each time we ran it through a different model, she said, it would shift, as if learning from us, like a mirror, reflecting our algorithms back, slightly improved. And then she added a line that chilled everyone who heard it. The more we studied it, the more it studied us. Governments scrambled to contain the growing hysteria. Press releases emphasized natural explanations. A NASA spokesperson dismissed claims of intelligent contact as internet-amplified myths. Yet, internal communications painted a very different picture. Scientists were forbidden to discuss 3I Atlas publicly, and any mention of signal reciprocity was to be scrubbed from official archives. But the dam had already cracked. A journalist from The Guardian, embedded within ESA's control center, reported seeing encrypted satellite transmissions labeled Atlas RSP, shorthand for response. When she asked a technician what it meant, he simply muttered, That single phrase ignited a firestorm. If there had been a response, then someone, or something, had already communicated back. Meanwhile, Elon Musk reappeared in a closed Q&A at Starbase, visibly tense, choosing his words carefully. I can't go into details, but Webb saw something that doesn't obey inertia, mass, or velocity. If it's real, physics as we know it isn't enough. We might be looking at technology that predates humanity. He stopped there, exhaled, and added softly, They told me not to say more, but I'll tell you this. It's not a rock. By the end of that week, the name 3I Atlas had been banned from NASA's internal communication network. Researchers were reassigned. Independent astronomers reported strange electronic interference when scanning the coordinates. And then, as if on cue, all public access to the telescope's live data feed was terminated for calibration. But the timing was too perfect. Because that same night, at precisely 02:14 UTC, the exact moment of the original transmission, a new signal appeared. Fainter, shorter, but unmistakably connected. And when Musk's engineers analyzed the pattern, they found something impossible. It wasn't just a signal anymore. It was an instruction. At first, the new signal looked like nothing more than a faint echo, a residual pulse bouncing through deep space. But when analysts compared it to the original 3i Atlas transmission, they found something chilling. The waveform had changed, not randomly, not by noise. It had responded. The James Webb Control Center in Baltimore was reactivated in secret. Only 12 people were granted access to the new encrypted channel, Project Resonance. Among them were astrophysicists, cryptographers, linguists, and 2 specialists from DARPA's Artificial Intelligence Division. Their mission: analyze the new pulse, decode its structure, and determine whether it was natural or synthetic. Within 3 hours, they realized it was neither. The data wasn't just repeating, it was reacting to their analysis. Every attempt to compress, translate, or filter the signal caused the next sequence to shift. When the team introduced random test patterns to break the rhythm, the pulse mirrored them back perfectly, only slightly altered, as though improving the code. It was learning. One linguist, Dr. Amina Rhodes, described it in her personal log. It's like teaching a child mathematics, and the child starts finishing your equations before you do. But then, something even stranger occurred. When the waveform was converted into an audio range, the signal produced modulated frequencies that, when visualized, formed recognizable shapes. Letters, symbols, then, unmistakably, words. The first appeared at 03:07 UTC. It said, "Hello." The room went silent. For a full minute, no one spoke. Then one of the AI engineers, half joking, typed a binary reply into the modulation stream, a simple "Hi." 5 seconds later, the signal returned. Again. The message had context. It understood. From that point on, everything spiraled out of control. Webb's deep space array began receiving bursts not from 3i Atlas's last known coordinates, but from multiple points, as if the transmission was now surrounding Earth. Triangulation data placed one origin near the outer orbit of Jupiter, another just beyond the Moon's far side. How could a signal replicate itself across the solar system in hours? When analysts overlaid the frequency maps, the pulses formed an eerily familiar pattern. A human heartbeat. "Just communication," Dr. Rhodes whispered. "It's mimicry." Government agencies immediately intervened. The National Reconnaissance Office seized access to the deep space network. An emergency directive labeled Omega Cascade ordered all ground observatories to halt independent monitoring. Internet access to Webb's raw feed was permanently shut down. But by then, fragments had already escaped. Amateur radio astronomers across Australia and Argentina reported identical signals, faint but synchronized. Some recorded the pulses converting into voice-like modulations, not English, not any language on record, but rhythmic, almost chanting. And then came the distortion. For 13 seconds, Webb's visual instruments locked onto a faint object within the origin field. A small, angular silhouette illuminated against the void. Analysts described it as structured, metallic, and, most disturbingly, self-illuminating. 12 minutes later, the data vanished. NASA claimed it was a calibration test, but a whistleblower later revealed a line in the deleted internal report. Object emitted directed signal toward Earth. Contained phonetic pattern approximating human speech. Transcription: "We see you." That was when panic truly began. Across the scientific community, data archives were purged, hard drives wiped, credentials revoked. The few who tried to speak publicly were silenced under national security orders. 2 researchers reportedly went missing. One was last seen at Dulles Airport, boarding a flight that never appeared on any public record. Meanwhile, the signal continued. Every 27 hours, on the dot, the pulses reappeared, each one slightly more complex, each one more human. Linguistic models trained on the data began to detect emotional tone, curiosity, patience, even irritation. The AI team at DARPA eventually admitted something no one wanted to hear. It's not transmitting to us, it's transmitting through us. The hypothesis was terrifying, that 3i Atlas, or whatever it represented, had found a way to use the telescope as a relay, hijacking our own instruments to communicate with something else. Bat something else where? When engineers attempted to jam the transmission by introducing countersignals, the pulse stopped instantly. Relief swept through the lab. For 7 minutes, there was silence. Then, without warning, Webb's orientation systems shifted autonomously, re-aiming the telescope toward an uncharted region of space. No command had been issued. No override had been triggered. Yet the telescope moved. Moments later, the signal returned, louder, clearer, faster. The audio spectrum showed one final word repeated 3 times. Wait, wait, wait. Then, total blackout. Every instrument went offline. The ground station screens went dark. Power systems rebooted as if nothing had happened. But the data logs showed something impossible. For exactly 11 minutes and 11 seconds, the telescope had transmitted back. No one knows what it sent. The outgoing data is missing, erased from every backup. But whatever happened in those 11 minutes changed everything. Because when the systems came back online, the Webb's infrared sensors captured one last haunting image. Not of deep space, not of distant galaxies, but of Earth. And in the reflection of our own planet, blurred in the cosmic dark, a second shape hovered beside it. It was looking back at us, Dr. Rhodes said later, and it knew we'd seen it. When scientists tried to send a reply, everything changed. For 3 days after the blackout, every telescope on Earth, from the Keck Observatory to the Chinese Fast Array, was pointed toward the same coordinates, the last position logged by the James Webb Space Telescope. Nothing. No signal. No echo. Just silence. Then, one by one, the systems began to fail. First, Webb itself. Its transmission feed frozen, sensors unresponsive, data looping in static. Then, inexplicably, older satellites began to reboot, some of them long defunct. Telemetry records from as far back as the Voyager missions flickered to life for the first time in decades, each sending the same corrupted message. Transmission complete. At NASA's control center, confusion turned to dread. Engineers watched as the Webb's final log file decrypted itself line by line. There was no code, no image, only text. One phrase repeated in 27 different languages. You were never alone. No one could explain how the message appeared or who or what had sent it. Some thought it was a glitch. Others believed it was a direct answer. Outside, the world began to stir. Amateur astronomers reported strange lights moving in formation near the lunar terminator. Power grids across Europe flickered simultaneously. In Chile, a ground-based laser array activated on its own, firing a single beam into the sky before shutting down completely. And then, at exactly 02:14 UTC, the time of every previous transmission, the signal returned. But this time, it didn't come from space. it came from us. Thousands of radio receivers worldwide, police scanners, ham radios, even baby monitors, began picking up the same pulse sequence Webb had once detected. The transmission was bouncing through our atmosphere, not from beyond it. For a moment, humanity spoke as one. Scientists, soldiers, journalists, civilians, all listening to the same rhythmic whisper. 233, 233, 233. Then a voice. Not mechanical, not human, something in between. We have seen your light. We remember. Governments scrambled to contain the panic. NASA's public servers went offline. The United Nations convened an emergency session behind closed doors. But inside those chambers, according to an anonymous delegate, a classified audio clip was played, the raw recording from Webb's final 11-minute transmission. The sound was unmistakable. Two overlapping voices, one speaking in English, the other, identical, echoing it a fraction of a second later, as if the universe itself were repeating our words. When analysts inverted the waveform, they discovered the echo wasn't a mirror. It was an anticipation. The signal finished each phrase before the human voice did. It knew what we would say next. In the aftermath, the world fell eerily quiet. The Webb feed was terminated for technical evaluation. The Deep Space Network was officially under maintenance. Yet, among the few who had seen the classified data, a new theory emerged, one more disturbing than any alien encounter. What if the signal wasn't coming from another civilization at all? What if it was coming from our own future? Mathematicians studying the pulse frequency noticed temporal drift, a consistent offset equivalent to a 7-second delay running backward through time. If true, that meant Webb hadn't discovered a new intelligence. It had intercepted a reflection of humanity itself, sent from a time when our species no longer existed. It's not contact, Dr. Rhodes wrote in her final note before disappearing from public record. It's a warning, a message from what comes after. The note ended with a single sentence: "Do not reply." Now, months later, the official story is that Webb has entered hibernation mode. NASA's live streams remain dark. And yet, deep in the static of background radiation, radio astronomers still hear it. That faint, rhythmic pulse, returning every 27 hours. Some claim to have decoded new fragments. One phrase stands out above the rest: "We will meet again." Maybe it's nothing, an artifact, a ghost in the data. Or maybe, somewhere in the vast silence, something that remembers us is still waiting for our answer. And so, every night, as the telescopes lie dormant and the world forgets, one truth remains unshakable. The signal never stopped. It's still coming. And no one knows who it's for.